What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, since I had yesterday completely off, had nothing to do, and I wasn't feeling too well, gave me a lot of times to play video games. So, let's play some video games. So yeah, obviously the new Spider-Man game came out. It's something I've really been looking forward to based on some of the previews that I saw. Some of the trailers just looked really, really good. It reminded me kind of similar, like Arkham, like Batman Arkham style fighting, Assassin's Creed type thing, where you've got enemies around you and you press, to dodge, to attack, all that stuff. But now it's Spider-Man. And I don't know, just something about that got me really, really excited. Like, I want to see that. I want to be able to take on several different enemies as Spider-Man. Because, honestly, while you could do that in some of the past Spider-Man games, it either felt like they were attacking, it was like they would attack one at a time, or you just felt so OP that it's just like, why even bother? I can take out a group of 5 people all at once. And it's just like, it didn't feel like what I see in the movies, where it's one guy with powers. It was more like I have really, really special powers and I hit the ground and literally a shockwave will send like 10 of the enemies flying away. So it was either one extreme where the enemies are attacking one at a time, or the other one where I'm just able to attack way too many enemies at once for it to be realistic. This one felt a lot more, I say realistic, it really did feel more like a real style, what we see in the movies type of game. And so I got really excited for that, and I got excited to see what was going to happen. And on top of that, the fact that it's on PS4, the fact that they spent a lot of time, they even extended the release date, kind of made me think, all right, what are we getting? What are we in store for? What do we have to look forward to? And I will admit, I've probably set my expectations a little too high in that regard. And so, what I'm going to say about it overall before I get to spoiler territory is I love the game. The gameplay is fantastic. The story is really good. The fighting is really just, it feels so flowing. Once you get into I guess, the feel of it and you start to get the rhythm of it down, it really is a lot of fun. There are a couple times in fights where it feels like, your spider sense doesn't quite kick on when it should, and so you're getting attacked. Sometimes the enemies do that weird thing that you see in other fighting games where it's like they're attacking this way and then you dodge that way before the dodge icon comes up, and all of a sudden they're going like that and hitting you, and it's just like, wait, so that did happen a few times. Glitch wise, they'll probably patch some of these in the next release or whatever. But there are a couple glitches, especially when you get to the end game. One of the ones that I found was just all of a sudden these icons would pop up, like whether it's you're webbing to that one place and the icon would pop up to web to it, or it's showing that you can attack a guy and it's safe to attack him without alerting anyone. That icon would pop up and then would freeze on screen, and so I had like 12 icons. You had mission complete just frozen on the screen. You had a bunch of little dots around the screen. So that glitch happened after you finished the final boss. A glitch happened for me. I don't know if that's happened for anyone else, but I was inside of a building and I had to reload, and thankfully it kicked up right where it left off into the next cutscene. So the glitches are there. There is one glitch that I don't know if it's a glitch or not, or if it's intentional, but if you jump and an enemy attacks you and kills you while you're jumping, your body just goes flying. I hope that's not a glitch. I hope that's intentional and that's something they keep in the game, because I will admit I found a lot of joy from that, especially when like this big brute guy jumped and he shouldered me and literally sent me like a football right into a fire escape. It was brilliant. So that's about as much as I've seen glitch wise, and like I said, they'll probably patch most of those next chance they get. Trying to think if there's anything else non-spoilery. I guess I'll talk a little bit about the side stuff. The side stuff is pretty good. I will say, though, I'm a little disappointed at how short it was. Now, they might be having some DLC come out to where you can get more side quests, more side mission type stuff. But yeah, it felt like there were only a few side missions. There were a lot of little collectible things, bases you can attack and take them down. Little pictures you can take, landmark pictures, little backpack collectible things. So you can do that, but honestly, it didn't really feel like it was that time consuming. Like, I probably spent maybe 15 to 20 hours on the game overall and completed every one of the like the collectible things, completed all the side quests. The only thing I haven't done yet is like there are crime things that'll pop up randomly. I wish it would pop up a little less randomly, because there are times when I'm just swinging through an area like, all right, where's the crime? Because I need to stop it if I want to complete it. And so it takes forever sometimes for a crime to pop up. And sometimes when it does, it pops up behind you, and then you swing, and then the crime cancels. So, but, aside from that, though, the rest of it really is good. It was just a little bit smaller than I think I was expecting. So I don't know if those are my expectations or if everybody else was expecting like a nice, long, girthy game. But it's a little bit less than you're thinking it would be. Instead of like 40, 50 hours of gameplay, expect more like 15 to 20. That's about as much as I can give without talking about spoilers. So, that's your spoiler warning. If you haven't played it yet, if you want to wait to play it, go ahead and click off of this video. Enjoy it. It really is a lot of fun. But now to talk about spoilers. So first of all, story-wise, spoilers. I loved the fact that we got Sinister Six in this. I don't know. When I saw the trailer and there's that one point where all the enemies were attacking him at the raft, and I'm just like, I'm watching it. It's intense. He's following Electro, Rhino attacks, Vulture attacks, Scorpion attacks. I didn't know about Mr. Negative. I haven't ever heard of him before. Now he's a character I kind of want to look up because he had a pretty interesting backstory. But yeah, whenever the Sinister Six popped up, I'm just like, oh, that's what they're doing. And on that aspect, I will say I really did enjoy a lot of the story, because at first it kind of tricked me into thinking, all right, we're getting this story about Martin Lee, turning into Mr. Negative, and it was a very interesting story, but it was more build up. And so whenever we hit that point in the story where it's like the Sinister Six happens and Doc Ock steps in, and it's emotional because of everything that happened between Otto and Peter at the beginning of the story, I will say at that point I got really excited because I'm thinking, oh, the story is just beginning. That whole Mr. Negative thing was just a prologue almost. Now we're into like an Arkham Knight type thing where the entire city is being overrun by, you got criminals running the streets, you got this Sable that steps in, and they're kind of almost becoming dictatorship type thing in the streets. Unfortunately, that didn't last nearly as long as I thought it was going to, and that's what I talk about when I say I expected more. I really did expect that to be a majority of the game, when in reality it's more split into two halves. You've got one half which is the whole Martin Lee storyline, trying to stop him and all the demons that are trying to take over the city. And then once you stop him, he gets sent to prison. They get broken out by Dr. Octopus. That becomes the second half of the story, where then the city's being overrun, and then once you complete that, game over. That's a weird way to put it. Story over. So I was expecting more. I was expecting more story, especially whenever Miles got bit by the spider. I mean, we all knew Miles Morales eventually will become Spider-Man, but I was expecting that to maybe even be another part of the story where maybe Peter dies off at the end of the second half, and then Miles, maybe a couple months later, he stepped up as the new Spider-Man, and now you get to play as Miles for the third part of the game. But they didn't do any of that. And so that's in my mind, that's what I was picturing. I'm like, oh, this could be exciting, because I was getting to the end of Peter's, like all of his abilities, his skills. I'm like, wow, I can't be near the end game, right? I mean, I've only been playing for maybe 15 hours. And then I got to the point where Miles got bit, and I'm like, oh, is that what they're going to do? Or are we going to get to play as Miles now, once Peter completes his part of the story? But then the story ended. I'm just like, oh, okay. What I will say, though, in spite of all that, I'm hoping this is what they're thinking. I'm hoping we get a trilogy. We got a very fun one in Batman Arkham Asylum, Arkham Knight, Arkham City, Arkham Knight. That was a fun trilogy. It was fun to experience all of the story, going through it. I'm wondering if maybe we're going to get that, but in Spider-Man form. They had this first game, got to experience this new story. It's a lot of similarities, a lot of things that we've seen before in Spider-Man lore, but we're getting a different side of things. We're getting to see Peter already, he's been doing this for a while. He's got a lot of these enemies. We got to see the story of Otto becoming Dr. Octopus. Norman is still, he's a mayor, but he's not necessarily Green Goblin yet. You can see he's still evil, though. You had the Sinister Six step in. We saw at the end something with Harry where he's like in a suspension tank. It looked like he might have been infected with venom. Like I don't know. He saw at the end, Norman put his hand on the glass, and all of a sudden, like what looked like a venom web shot to the glass. Does that mean that Harry is now going to be Venom for this storyline? Is that, I mean, you guys tell me if you know more about Spider-Man than I do, but that's what it looked like to me. It looked like he had venom, like, tendrils. Tendrils? Is that the word I'm looking for? I think it is, but it looked like that's what was coming out of him. So it might be something where that's maybe the main storyline for the second game, while we also have, Doc Ock was really set up as kind of a big villain in this one, so maybe he's going to be the overarching villain in all 3 games if they're doing a trilogy. Obviously, we've got Miles now stepping up as a Spider-Man at the end of the game, so there's a possibility that he might be involved as the games go along. So there's a lot of stuff that they could focus on in another game or even 2 more games that gets me really, really excited, because while we have had some good Spider-Man games in the past, it feels like this is the first time that we've had one that's so free-flowing. It feels so smooth. The fighting style is so smooth. It feels like they're building up a whole new story that we can experience. I feel like there's a lot of places they could go with this. Now, are they going to be able to carry through with it? That's what I'm not sure of. So we'll have to see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to it. A couple other things to talk about. Obviously, talk about the emotional side of the story. It was really, really good. Like, I really enjoyed the emotion. I thought the voice acting was really good. The face capture did a really good job of capturing a lot of the emotion of the characters in the game. The scene between Peter and Doc Ock at the end, where he's practically pleading to him, please help me. I can fix this. I can do this. And you can just see the hurt on Peter's face, because this was his mentor. I mean, he even says, I worshipped you, because he looked up to this man without realizing how far gone he was. And it really does hurt. It hurts emotionally to see him go through that anguish. And then add on top of that, he gets back too late to save Aunt May, which I was just like, really? We're doing this? We're killing her off? Like, it really, really hurt. And to see him go through the turmoil of losing his mentor, and then on top of that, losing Aunt May to this disease when he had a chance to save her but decided to save all these other people instead, I really, really wish we could have explored that a bit more. And that's why I do wish there was more to this game, because that felt more like a end of Act 2 scene, and then we go into Act 3 where maybe he's not really wanting to do this as much. He's not really wanting to be the Spider-Man anymore because of what happened, and that's when Miles steps in, or something along those lines. Instead of he loses his mentor to this craziness, he loses Aunt May to the disease, and now the game ends. I get that they're kind of doing a setup for another game, but at the same time, I want to see more right now. And I know getting another game is probably going to be at least a year, maybe 2 more before we get another one. And that's really disappointing, because I want to see more now. Now, is there a chance for DLC? Possibly. They might do a couple, they might add a couple side missions in. The side missions in this one were kind of honestly lackluster. I mean, the Tombstone one was pretty interesting near the end. I like the little banter between them at the end of his story. There was one where he was literally just going around the city taking pictures. I can't remember her name now. Is it Screwball, I think? Very random side quest, didn't last very long. The one where he was going and saving all these people from Martin Lee's corruption thing, that was fun while it lasted, and then it was just over. So I don't know. It felt very, very lackluster on the side quests. The collectibles could be fun at times. There were little things that they did to change it up from time to time, as far as the attacking the bases. You had little different missions that you had to complete. I wish there were a few different enemies to face as well, because it felt very limited on the enemies. You had your generic guy, you had a guy with a weapon, you had a guy with a gun, you had a guy with a sniper, a guy with a rocket, big brute guy, and then they added in a whip guy and a sword guy, and then that was about it. They sound like, oh, that's a lot of different enemies, but honestly, they were all pretty much the same. Very little change of tactics. One guy you might be able to, you had to punch him in the air, while the other guy you had to attack him from behind. the gun guys, you could pretty much do whatever with them. So I don't know. There was definitely a lot of different ways to attack, and I'm glad they did that. But I did want to see a little bit of variation when we went from one set of enemies to the other. Because by the end of the game, it was all pretty much you attack Sable, or you attack the demons, or you attack random prisoners. They all have similar enemies. They all have the same type of enemies. I will say the change of effects of what the weapons did was pretty good. Like if you attacked prisoners and one guy tossed a bomb or a grenade, it would stun you and like flash you to where you couldn't see. Whereas if the Sable guys attacked you with a grenade, it would shock you to where you couldn't use any of your weapons or gadgets. So I thought that was kind of clever, but that's about the only variation you got in between the different enemies. So I want to see a little bit more variation there. I'd like to see a little bit more maybe attacking different like types of enemies, I guess. Like I don't know how to describe that. Not just humans. I want to face metahumans. I want to face, or not metahumans, inhumans. I want to face like maybe there are monsters being created in the city, stuff like that. That would be pretty fun. So maybe a little bit more change in that going forward, and I think that's about it. So yeah, overall, I mean, love the game. I think it's a great game. I think it's a great build up to other games. I wish I could have seen more now, but maybe they just didn't have it in the plans for now. Maybe they were always planning on just doing 3 games, possibly. So hoping to see more, hoping it comes out sooner rather than later. I hope I don't have to wait 2 years, maybe a year. That would be perfect. But yeah, so we'll see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to what they have next. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts in this game? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future video game reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.